Previously on Gears.
And it is the Valencia, well, it's the European Grand Prix. Takes place over the circuit around the streets of Valencia. Joining me, as always, is my co-presenter and, well, at this stage, kind of stunt driver when it comes to circuit racing, because people just want to bash you all over the place. And then, of course, is the one and only GaryFormato. Now, you know what, Gary? I said this a little bit earlier. You most probably weren't listening because I know how busy you are. But listen, I'm not a fan of this particular race circuit for one reason. And that is, it doesn't lend itself to any kind of really cool racing in my perspective. So please tell me I'm wrong.
Well, I'd love to be able to say you're 100% wrong, but we haven't seen good racing since the inception of the circuit, and it's got to do with the fact that you don't have corners that really make a difference to the driver. You know, it's really, you have people talk about a point and squirt sort of track. You've got your brake markers, you turn in, get the car, and you drive out of the corner. Of course, it's got long straights as well, and being a street circuit, not room to overtake. So it hasn't given us good racing. However, I think this weekend, with the tyres that we got from Pirelli, the temperatures that we're seeing over there at the moment, I think it's going to come into force, and we are going to see some good racing. So even though it's hard to overtake, you can see queues of cars developing and a strategy calls that are going to really make the race.
Yeah, I tell you, I was watching free practice earlier on today. I did read out the results earlier, but if you did miss it, just to let you know, Pastor Maldonado for Williams was quickest. Now, we always say, you know, Friday, you can't read too much into it. But if you couldn't read anything into it, then why would they actually even do it?
Well, you've got to read a little into it, and it is a difficult one. You know, I believe that everybody gets there. They've got to get onto the circuit. They've got to get meaningful data, which means they need to push. Maldonado obviously likes the paella in Spain. I mean, he was quick the last time out. We know he won the Grand Prix in Barcelona. It may be another good weekend for him.
It could well be, but I think, you know, also a lot of the times when you do these kind of analyses, Gary, you got to look at the teammates and how the teammates are faring. So if you look at it, Maldonado was in first place and Valtteri Bottas was doing the donkey work for the instead of Bruno Senna. He was 1.4 seconds off the pace, but he more than likely would have been given a completely different kind of schedule to do, because we know Bottas is actually very, very quick.
Absolutely, and you're right about the two cars running on different schedules, if you like, different programs for the weekend. You know, they've only got so much time, and of course, you know, you want to maximize that and do what you can on both cars, run different setups, see which way you're probably going to go for the rest of the weekend. For example, Jenson Button this weekend has started off with Lewis Hamilton's setup, which is not the normal situation. I mean, they're trying to find pace with him, so, you know, different strategy there. But yes, Friday is a difficult one to call, and the track, remember, that is a street circuit. The track's going to rubber in as well. So the data that you get now, you know, needs to be interpreted quite difficult to interpret, should I say, rather. And then going to FP2 later on this afternoon with the more better understanding of the circuit. Of course, we've got Formula Renault 3.5 GP2, so the track is going to rub in pretty quickly. Yeah,
it is going to get a little bit easier to drive as well. So lots of mistakes from drivers during the course of the day. Everyone, Gary, is, you know, all of the press that you pick up, 8 out of 8. Are we going to have an 8th different winner this coming weekend? I mean, we've had 7 out of 7, 8 out of 8, 9 out of 9. Do you think it's going to happen?
Look, I mean, who cares if it does or doesn't? I think at the end of the day, for me, we've got a championship battle that's developing up at the front between the top 3 drivers. That's, I think, getting to this point of the season now. That's the battle we're looking out for. Whether Schumacher wins a race, yes, fantastic. We want to see Schumacher win a race. Everybody does. We want to see a Lotus win a race. Yes, great. I don't think Formula One needs another winner right now. It's been an outstanding season, and you know, I'm looking at the championship.
I think the championship is hotting up, and I think it is going to balance itself out. I do agree with that. It's amazing. Jenson is employing Lewis's setup, and he's quicker than him. So it's always quite weird. Yeah, it's not much, but he is quicker, which also has got to be a huge boost of confidence, because Jenson has had a couple of races now where, out of the last 4 races, scored 2 points, which is really un-Jenson-like. So he needs confidence as well.
He does, and he needs confidence over one lap. It's qualifying has been the major problem for Jenson Button of late. So that's obviously why they're working with the new setup, trying to find some of that pace. But I do believe it is still too early to call for Jenson to see what the result's going to be. He's been quick on Fridays before, even in the last couple of Grand Prix.
Correct.
Come qualifying, he's really struggled. So, you know, that's where they really need to get it all hooked up.
Yeah, listen, I've got a funny feeling tomorrow qualifying is going to come down to a couple of tenths. It's not a kind of circuit like Montreal where Red Bull adopted with a completely different setup to get themselves less drag, more speed, and put in the unbelievable lap time that they did. but it didn't. This kind of circuit, everyone is on very, very similar setups.
Yeah, exactly that. And you need a certain amount of downforce here to get to the corners. You need to standardize, if I could say that, not the right terminology, but yeah, we'll see people running on their setups. It's, again, it comes down to qualifying. Although your car may not be that quick in the race, you've got to qualify well. However, in saying that as well, you've got to make sure that you don't go over the edge with the tires, and the temperatures here is going to be, it's going to make it very difficult for teams to find that edge, or to see where it is, and to get the tires to last. So that's going to be the call. Have a setup that's going to look after your tires and allow you to qualify on that that outright lap for qualifying.
That's interesting stuff. Listen, stay with us. Gary and I are going to talk about those tires and the cliff, and when they do fall off, and how they actually do affect. And I mean, we can revert back to the Canadian Grand Prix. Lots still to talk about the world of Formula One and DJ Dex. DJ Dex coming up in a couple of minutes from now. But we're chatting Formula One ahead of this weekend's European Grand Prix with the one and only supreme multiple South African champion when it comes to motor racing and Supersport's best presenter. Of course, is the one and only GaryFormato. How'd I do that? Okay.
Yeah, but that sounded pretty good.
Well, I mean, I read it as you wrote it. So.
Okay, good.
Gary, looking forward to this weekend. There's one thing that we hear the commentators say, and it's something that we say regularly when we're doing our shows as well, and that is that the tires reach the cliff. And I think, most people, I think, can obviously kind of understand that, well, they're no longer working the way they meant to. But it is a lot more severe than that.
Well, that's right. And it's not just about tyre wear either. You'll find that those tyres still have rubber on them when they stop. Basically what happens is that all the compound and all the construction in that tyre, which gives it that super grip that Formula One cars have and Formula One cars tyres generate, basically runs out. It migrates to the top of the surface of the tyre, obviously with the heat, and it is no longer there once the tire's been used up. So when they talk about the cliff, look at Fernando Alonso at the last race. He tried to go too long on a set of tires, got to the point when the tires just were not working anymore, had absolutely no grip left, and you saw massive time differences there of 4 seconds a lap at the end of the race for Fernando Alonso. So that's the call that the teams need to get right. It's just how long are the tires going to last, how hard does the driver push those tires where it will get to that cliff. And obviously you don't want to go over it, because you saw what happened to Fernando Alonso. So you want to time it just right. That's where we talk about calls and strategy being important. Yeah. That's what the strategy is about, getting the timing right as to when to change the tires and just how long to go for on a certain set.
And that's why for those who do watch the free practice sessions, and I know from from the tweets that I send out, a lot of people interested. But the whole thing about those free practice sessions, and that's why sometimes they are difficult to analyze, is the guys have to go out there on both sets of the compound tires during the session, the first and second free practice session. But we don't know their fuel loads, and we don't know, is this going to be a midway stint? Is this the beginning of the race? I mean, it's very, very difficult to analyze it. I mean, I suppose that's also some of the secrecy and the wonderfulness about Formula One.
Well, that's right. A lot of the teams wouldn't want to show their hand at certain, times of practice. And also, they don't share, obviously, which fuel loads they are on and what sort of run they are simulating, as you said, beginning, middle, or end of the race, whatever it may be. So, that's part of getting your setup right for the weekend. But another thing to bear in mind is that the track changes all the time. We just spoke about the track rubbering in as well. However, it also could change with a couple of degrees in temperature, drop or increase, or whatever it may be. So it's always evolving, and that's why you get a situation where you'd expect a team like Ferrari or Renault, like happened to Kimi a couple of races back, to say, well, surely they should know when the cliff's going to come. That's the thing, it's not exact. You just don't know, because the conditions are changing all the time, and that's where you've really got to know where you are as a driver, know where you are as a team with how your car is reacting, and try and catch it before it goes right off.
All right, so a couple of more things. A silly season. There's a lot of talk of Vettel maybe going to Ferrari, and Alonso saying he doesn't mind who his teammate is. He does have a say in it. But interesting article that came out from Helmut Marko from Red Bull, Gary, and he says the whole crux of the silly season, as we all call it, is Michael Schumacher. It all depends whether or not Schumacher stays or goes, or if Mercedes say, hey, listen, enough now.
Well, exactly. I think I don't think that Mercedes would ever say to Schumacher, or Ross Brawn in particular. I think there's a strong relationship. I think that the pace is certainly there from Michael Schumacher. I'm wondering how patient Michael Schumacher is going to be with the situation. He's had so much bad luck from that car and from that team. I mean, more bad luck this year than he had in 5 years with Ferrari. So whether he wants to carry on next year is another question altogether. But yes, the driver market depends on it. Who will Mercedes-Benz fill that seat with? We've heard about Paul de Resta. There's other names. I've even heard Kimi Raikkonen in the last couple of weeks from people overseas. So that is going to determine as to who goes where. It could even be a guy like Lewis Hamilton. However, I don't think so. But anything can happen up there.
Yeah, we all know in Formula One also the contracts are not really worth much. A couple of interesting tweets here. The two girls, Sowers 22 and Shan's Durban, just tuned in, Gary, for your feature. Just to let you know. Thanks, girls. There we go. Don't tune in for my feature, just tune in for Gary's. That's okay. I can deal with that. It's not a big issue. Looking also, Gary, finally, because we want to go through any kind of surprises from free practice 1. We're only half an hour away from free practice 2, but it doesn't seem as though there was anybody that was caught out. So when it comes to qualifying tomorrow, don't expect too many sort of big issues unless someone makes a mistake.
Yeah, that's right. Obviously being a street circuit again, if somebody does go off, is going to perhaps cause a safety car, whatever it may be. But I think a track that is not too difficult, drivers, as you say, not making too many mistakes, and qualifying, it's such a nerve-wracking one, because even as a team, as a driver going into qualifying, you've done your best with the setup, you think you know what you've got, but is it going to give you what you need ultimately? And I think there's so many cars and teams and drivers that can actually put themselves on the front of the grid, but everything's got to stack up. It's all got to be in the right place. Yeah,
I got to say, I still go with McLaren for the weekend. I still think that they are the best team out there, the fastest car out there, and I don't think anybody can compromise too much. I think Alonso will be quick, of course, home sort of race for him as well. Everyone's talking up Mercedes. I just somehow don't know if they're there yet.
Well, I think it's more of an emotional talk-up for Mercedes and Michael Schumacher than anything else. I think there's so many people that like to see him actually win this race. As you mentioned right in the beginning about people on about having the 8th win in eight races. I don't think it's going to be the case. As I said, it's going to be McLaren. It's going to be Red Bull up there. For Fernando Alonso, you just can't count him out. I mean, for me, he's been absolutely fantastic this year. The driver of the year, there's no doubt about it. He can certainly perform on a track like this, which is difficult.
Yeah, I think it is going to be... Well, listen, let's hope it's another terrific race in Formula One. As I say, I'm not a big fan of the circuit, but hopefully with the tyres that Pirelli provide, it will lend itself to some great racing. Gary, your pick, McLaren, Ferrari?
Well, I'm going to go with the McLaren. I think Lewis Hamilton's shaking the monkey of his back. The last Grand Prix, I think he's going to be our first double win of the year.
Yeah, I must say, I do concur with that one. Gary, always good to see you. You know what? I'll see you a little bit later.
All right, we'll see you then.
There we go. Super Sport, of course, tonight we'll have, coming up in 25 minutes, you can watch it on TV, and then later on this evening, 7:30, we have the highlights package. Tomorrow, 10 to 11, is free practice 3, and then, of course, 2 until 3 is official qualifying tomorrow afternoon, and then, of course, 1:30 on Sunday. All of the action live on Super Sport. Make sure
at the next intersection, turn on Gears with Sasha Martinengo. Weekdays from 12 to 2 p.m. Central African Time on bulls.co.za.